September 11th edition of City Council Public Hearing. I will now call the meeting to order. And as I do, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and Métis homelands, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota Sioux, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. So I will do a quick roll call, but I will, before that, acknowledge that Mayor Sohi is absent this morning, as he is at the Firefighters Memorial, and we would all be there if we could. And just a quick word about that, considering that it is September 11th today, and we know that firefighters from around the world showed unity on that day. And in fact, many went to New York to assist with some of the challenges that they had in New York City. Here at home, our firefighters are brave, they're essential, and we are extremely grateful for the risks they take to keep our homes safe. And with that, let's do the roll call. Councillor Carmel.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Hamilton.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Councillor Knack.
Good morning.
It's fairly good. Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Rice.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Rutherford.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
There you are. Councillor Tang.
Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Wright. And she is likely at the memorial as well. Okay, and I am here. And I think I am missing Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Because she was right beside me, and my brain just said she is here. All right. So, can we get anyone in this wonderful room to move the adoption of the agenda?
I'll move adoption of the September 11th, 2023 public hearing meeting agenda.
Second.
Thank you. I did not hear who seconded that.
Councillor Rice, second.
Great, thank you. And please vote.
In favor.
Thank you, Councillor Jans.
And when it is appropriate,
I
please
am a
display the
yes.
vote. Oh, there we go. Still going.
Councillor Principe is a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Principe and Tang.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. And unfortunately, maybe for some of you, that means that we're here for the duration. Okay, so I am not aware of any protocol items. I'll just double check with the clerks. No. And at this time, I would like to offer an explanation of the public hearing process. So for those of you for whom this is the first time or you just would like a refresher, the clerk will call out the bylaws to be dealt with. I will call out the names of the people registered to speak to each bylaw, and next council members will select the bylaws that they wish to discuss and vote on any bylaws that have not been selected for discussion. Council will then deal with each of the bylaws that were selected for discussion and debate. For each item, administration will provide an overview of the bylaw. Members of the public who have registered to speak will then be invited to make their presentations. Those in favor will speak first in panels, followed by those opposed, also in panels. Each person will have 5 minutes to make comments. The clerk will run the official timer in the council chamber. You may, if you are participating remotely, want to set your own timer as well. Timer lights on the podiums will be green for the first 4 minutes, turn yellow when there is 1 minute remaining, and flash red when the 5 minutes are up. If you are participating virtually, again, please, you may want to use a timer of your own. The reason I stress that 2 times is because a lot of people who are making their presentations find themselves caught mid-sentence, and we do have to put a hard stop on the 5 minutes. When everyone in your panel has had a chance to present, members of council may ask questions of you or other panel members. For this reason, you may wish to remain in the meeting until all questions have been asked of your panel. After comments from the public, council may ask questions of city administration. After all questions of administration have concluded, I will ask council if they wish to ask any further questions of those who presented in response to new information that may have arisen during the public hearing. Thereafter, council may close the public hearing and debate the bylaw, at which point comments from public speakers are closed. If you are participating virtually, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking and refrain from using the raise hand function, as it creates issues of fairness and decorum. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please reach out to the office of the city clerk using the contact information provided in your confirmation of registration or at city.clerk@edmonton.ca. If you are here with us in person, and there are many who are, the clerk will guide you to your seat when it's your turn to speak. In the event of an emergency, please follow the clerk's directions to evacuate. City staff will direct you to your muster point. Okay, Mr. Clerk, may you please call the bylaws?
I'm just going to call a point of order,
Oh, absolutely.
Councillor
Please do.
Paquette. My apologies for the interruption, but the sound online is intermittent, and twice now it's cut out in the middle of you reading. So I don't know if that's what's happening at your workstation or what's happening at the clerk's station, but I wanted to note that we're having intermittent sound.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. That's an excellent flag. We'll just check in.
It should be working now. If everyone can just make sure they're speaking a little closer to the microphone, that might help a bit, but please do notify us if it does cut out.
All right, I'll move from 3 inches to 1 inch. Is that better, Councillor Hamilton?
Yes, it's less with volume and more like it's like someone just turns the mic off. And I saw Councillor Tang sort of remark on it to herself. So, but maybe it's just a ghost in the wires over there.
Okay, so I'm hearing that it should be fixed now. So if it is not, please, do not hesitate. Don't wait for me to finish speaking. Just jump right in, if that's okay with you. All right, great. Got the thumbs up. Okay, so Clerk Martin, do you mind calling the bylaws?
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.1, Charter Bylaw 20591, to allow for industrial businesses and limited compatible and non-industrial uses, Rampart Industrial?
Yes, I have one to answer questions only, and that is Catherine Chopko-Beck from Arcadis, and will be remote.
Thank you, I'm here.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Items 3.2 and item 3.3 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.2, Bylaw 20586, to amend the Kennedale Industrial Area Structure Plan, or item 3.3, Charter Bylaw 20587, to allow for the development of business, industrial, and commercial uses, Kennedale Industrial?
Yes, we have two. We have Emma Zerowell to answer questions only from Invistec, and that is in person. Stephen Yu to answer questions only, and that is Invistec, also in person. Opposed, we have one, and that is Rosetta Bilotta, and Rosetta is remote. Rosetta, are you online with us?
I am here.
Great, perfect, thank you.
And Councillor Paquette, we do have one additional registration for item 3.2.
Okay.
Mohammed Sheikh is here in person and in favor for questions only.
Perfect. Questions only. All right.
And sorry, just to confirm, did Emma and Stephen, did you confirm that you're here in person?
Yep, I see them both.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.4, amendment to the Southeast Industrial Area Outline Plan, or item 3.5, Charter Bylaw 20609, to allow opportunities for educational services on a developed site, Weir Industrial?
Yes, I have 6 in favor. Cheryl Watson to answer questions only from Alberta Classical Academy in person. Hello. Sadiq Valiani to answer questions only from Alberta Classical Academy, who is remote. Are you online with us, Sadiq?
Sorry, it's John Picard. I'm the superintendent of Alberta Classical. Sadiq won't be with us this morning.
Well, hello, John. You are indeed on the list. And I've heard that Sadiq has not joined us yet. That's right. Okay. Lilith Holder from Investec to answer questions only. And she's here. Scott Mackey from Investec, also here in person. Connell Tanner, remote, to answer questions from Alberta Classical Academy. You're with us, Connell?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are.
Perfect. Great. And none opposed, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.6, Bylaw 20553, to amend the Edmonton Energy and Technology Area Structure Plan, or item 3.7, Charter Bylaw 20554, to allow for industrial development, manufacturing and logistics, including an indoor self-storage facility, Edmonton Energy and Technology Park?
Yes, we have 2. One is Allison Rosland from Situate in person, I believe. Do we have
Oh, no, I'm online, Counselor.
Oh, you're remote. You know what? It actually does say remote. I don't know why.
And I only need to give my presentation if the item is selected for debate.
Okay, perfect. And Bobby Lale, also remote from Nest Homes.
Good morning. I'm here as well. And I will be giving the presentation if it's selected for debate.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much. And none opposed, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.8, Bylaw 20278, to amend the Des Rochers Neighbourhood Area Structure Plan, or item 3.9, Charter Bylaw 20279, to allow for the development of medium-rise multi-unit housing, Des Rochers?
Yes, I have 2. We've got Chris Nicholas to answer questions from MLC Land, remote.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Yolanda Liu from Stantec, in person to answer questions only. There we go. Hello. Good morning. And none opposed.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Following items will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.10, Bylaw 20583, to amend the Windermere Area Structure Plan, or item 3.11, Bylaw 20584, to amend the Ambleside Neighbourhood Structure Plan, or item 3.12, Charter Bylaw 20585, to allow for convenience, commercial, and personal service uses, Ambleside?
Yes, I have 2. I've got Andrew Olson to answer questions only from EINS in person. Andrew? Oh, way up there. Okay, hello. Good morning. And Ryan Edick to answer questions only, also from EINS in person, also up in the nosebleed section. All right, and none opposed.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.13, Charter Bylaw 20582, to allow for convenience, commercial, and personal services uses that are pedestrian-oriented, Pleasant View?
Yes, I have Andrew Olson to answer questions only from EINS in person, which we know he is here, and Ryan Edick as well, who is also here. And opposed, we have Michael Old in person, I believe. Michael. Well, maybe Michael has not joined us yet. Okay. And that is all.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.14, Charter Bylaw 20592, to allow for mid-rise multi-unit housing, Bonnie Doon?
Yes, we've got the aforementioned Allison Rosland from Situate, who is remote, and Adil Hassan from Hasco Development Corp, remote. Adil?
Yep, I'm present here and only need to get presentation if it's selected for debate.
Great. Okay. And opposed, we have Carol Barbary, and she is in person. I see her. Hello. Good morning. And James Halachuk, also in person. Good morning. If you have a question, please come down and ask the clerks, and they will be able to assist you. We'll have a clerk come up to you right away. Right, thank you. And that is all.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Items 3.15, 3.16, 3.717 will be dealt with together. Is there anyone to speak to item 3.15, bylaw 20600, to close a portion of road right-of-way at the southwest corner of 102 Avenue Northwest and 123 Street Northwest, Oliver, or item 3.16, bylaw 20593, to amend the Oliver Area Redevelopment Plan, or item 3.17, Charter Bylaw 20594, to allow for a mix of commercial and residential opportunities and locations that are well connected and to mass transit. Oliver.
All right, thank you. Yes, we have Henry Edgar. There he is. From Edgar Development in person. Yolanda Liu, as aforementioned, and from Stantec in person. Mark Huberman, to answer questions only, is here, and Ian Evans from Hodgson Shelf Evans Architects, right over there. Yep. And just to confirm, you will present only if selected, or would you prefer the item to be selected? Only if selected. Okay, because we have none opposed. And that is all. Okay. At this point, I will ask councillors to sign in if they wish to select any items. Okay, we'll just begin with Councillor Salvador. Please go ahead.
I'd like to select item 3.14, please.
Okay. And that's everything? Yeah. Any other selections? I am not hearing any. Oh, well, let's hold on. We've got a latecomer. Now, just to check in with the clerks, do we need to select item 3.4?
Item 3.4 does not need to be selected. However, item 3.2/3.3 has someone registered in opposition.
I'll select those. I don't know.
As does item 3.13.
Yes. No. But, I can select it, but as chair is hoping to get away with not selecting, but I will select 3.2 and 3.3. Okay, and so we do have speakers in opposition for some items, so we selected them all. I think so. I just want to double check to make sure. 3.13 has not been selected, and we do have someone in opposition. Would anyone care to select that? What's that?
Just seeing if Michael wants to select it.
Okay.
Oh,
And we do have Councillor Tang on the board.
I will select that.
Okay, great. Thank
you.
Councillor Tang. And I believe that covers all the people in opposition. And I just want to triple check for the sake of democracy. Yeah, that's all. Okay. So, Councillor Cartmel, would you care to move the remainder?
Good morning, Councillor Paquette. I will move closure of the public hearing on items 3.1, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5,
I'll get to it.
3.6, 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 3.10, 3.11, 3.12, 3.15, 3.16, and 3.17.
Great. Thank you,
Second.
Councillor Cartmel. If we could perhaps not select 3.3 as it's...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that they're both together. My mistake.
Okay, great. Good enough for the clerks? Okay, perfect. And that was seconded by
Councillor Rice?
Councillor Rice. Great. Thank you very much. I think we have some confusion up on in the. Did we not get everyone? I just want to make sure. I think we did. Yeah, we've got your item. Okay, perfect. All right, please vote.
Just waiting on one vote. Okay, we have all the votes.
Okay, please display the vote. And those bylaws have been passed. Thank you, Councillor Carmel.
No, that was just first, that was just closure of the
That was
public
just
hearing.
first? That's
Councillor
right.
Paquette.
That's first. Yeah, that's right. Okay, please go ahead.
I'll move first reading of the aforementioned items.
Okay, please vote.
Second?
Second by Councillor Rice. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Councillor Carmel.
Councillor Paquette, I'll move second reading of the aforementioned items.
Second.
Please vote. Seconded by Councillor Rice.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Councillor Carmel.
Councillor Paquette, I'll move consideration of third reading of the aforementioned items.
Second.
Second by Councillor Rice. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
Councillor Paquette, I'll move third and final reading of Charter Bylaw 20591. Amendment to the Southeast Industrial Area Outline Plan. Charter Bylaw 20609. Bylaw 20553. Charter Bylaw 20554. Bylaw 20278. Charter Bylaw 20279. Bylaw 20583. Bylaw 20584. Charter Bylaw 20585. Bylaw 20600. Bylaw 20593. And Charter Bylaw 20594.
Second.
And second by Councillor Rice. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. And there we go. Can't rush the process. Okay.
Councillor
Paquette. For item 3.4, now that the reading's been carried, there
Very
is
good
a motion for an amendment.
That's right. And I will read that in. Or actually, yeah, I'll read that in since we've got so many remote. And this is a...
So I'll take the chair.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Councillor Tang, yeah, thank you very much. Rutherford?
Councillor Rutherford.
Don't count on me to recognize voices on the loudspeaker. Okay, so the amendment to the Southeast Industrial Area Outline Plan, item 3.4, the recommendation is that attachment 1 of the September 11th, 2023 Urban Planning and Economy Report, amendment to the Southeast Industrial Area Outline Plan be approved. This recommendation can be considered after the statutory public hearing, which is now.
Second.
It's seconded by Councillor
Okay.
Stevenson.
Moved by Councillor Paquette, seconded by Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford.
Are there any questions on the motion? Anyone to speak to it? Okay, I will call the vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the votes. And that is carried, and I will return the chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so that is passed. And so we will now be moving to item 3.2, 3.3, to amend the Cannondale Industrial Area Structure Plan and to allow for development of business, industrial, and commercial uses in Cannondale.
Good morning. This application proposes to rezone a 0.07 hectare site in the Cannondale Industrial Neighborhood from medium industrial, or IM, to the business industrial, IB, zone. Currently, a convenience retail store is operating out of the subject site, and the applicant's intent is to accommodate a religious assembly, both of which would be discretionary uses under the proposed zone. Next slide, please. The site is located north of 129th Avenue and west of 52nd Street and is surrounded by a mixture of medium and business industrial lots. The Cannondale industrial neighborhood has generally been transitioning to a business industrial, with surrounding properties to the east zoned as IB and IM to the north. West and south of the subject site, including properties to the interior of the neighborhood, are still zoned IM. To the southwest of the site, a number of IB zones and IB zoned properties are located along the arterial road, 129th Avenue Northwest, and transit service is available via 129th Avenue. Next slide, please. The Cannondale ASP allows for light industrial uses that are generally proposed in areas of high visibility and on the boundaries of the plan area, where high-quality industrial development will provide an appropriate buffer and transition. Being located off of 129th Avenue with high visibility, the site meets the locational criteria prescribed in the area structure plan. An administrative amendment is included as part of this application to align with the plan with the current development of the neighborhood. This site is identified as a non-residential area within the northeast district of the city plan, and the application supports the city plan's policies related to promoting the continuous improvement of Edmonton's non-residential lands by facilitating intensification and reinvestment in the areas in order to attract business growth and diversify the economy in an area supported by mass transit. Next slide, please. Administration reached out using advance notices, the city's webpage, and site signage on this file. 2 responses were received, citing lack of availability of on-street parking, traffic, noise, and garbage as the main concerns. Next slide, please. Administration recommends that this application be approved as it supports redevelopment and intensification of industrial lands in an established non-residential area. It is compatible with the surrounding development, and it supports the goals and policies of the city plan. Thank you.
Wrong mic. Thank you. So we do have 2 people in favor, and at this point, if you would like to, now would be the time to speak to the item. Yeah. And if we have 2 speakers, both should probably be, but okay, we're going to go with the one. Okay, perfect. And then opposed, we will go afterwards. Okay, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Council. As mentioned, the application is to rezone from medium industrial to business industrial to support religious assembly for a not-for-profit organization. Currently, lands east of 52nd Street are also zoned IB. At the north end of the block, which is occupied by a cultural club, is zoned IB, and then there's one other one south. And currently our client, the Not-for-Profit Society, has agreements in place with 2 different cultural and religious associations within the area structure plan to provide off-street parking during events and other activities. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Now we have, I'm going to guess, no questions from councillors except for myself, but we will find out. And so if if you would remain in your seat, I do have just a few questions. So what we heard from the clerks is that in opposition, some concerns about on-street parking and traffic noise, and how would you respond to that concern?
Yes, thank you. As mentioned, the Not-for-Profit Society does have two agreements in place with two other nearby cultural and religious associations to provide ample off-street parking out of the alley of both of those organizations.
And you believe that will be sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. And that belief is based in observed or collected data?
Yes.
Okay, great. And what about the concern about the traffic noise?
Well, generally, I believe that because there's currently off-street parking provided by other organizations, as well as general industrial use, or general industrial traffic already in the area, it shouldn't be any more impact than there's currently operating.
Okay, and just last question, do you have an estimate of how many vehicles might be increasing in the area? You may not.
I don't at this time.
Okay.
However, we can get that answer.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Okay.
I don't see anyone else on the board. Just give a second in case anyone's a late comer. And no, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we will move to our speaker in opposition online. Rosetta, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. So whenever you're ready, you can begin, and you've got a full 5
Okay,
minutes.
I'm not able to, I was not able to hear any of this. I've just got you on basically notes over here. But anyway, in respect to my concern is parking in this area. We're very limited. Many times we've had to deal with issues where people will park right in front of our building, and we don't mind that as long as it also opens a door that we also have customers that bring in espresso machines, have to pick up goods, so on and so forth. And it has happened many times where we've had to go out there and say, please, can you move your vehicle as you're blocking our sidewalk. It's really bad in the winter. The winter months, parking seems to be, there's more vehicles, but with the snow around and everything, it is a lot more congested. So the reason why I oppose it is just basically for the parking. Noise is a little bit concerning. We do have a mosque right in front of our building, which is great, but the walls are not soundproof. So what ends up happening is when they're chanting and doing their celebrations and whatnot, the sound really comes out of the building. So it's basically a combination of trying to work together, but mainly parking is a big concern.
Okay.
Have you heard all of that? Because I can't hear a thing.
We've heard you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Rosetta?
I cannot hear you. No, I am just reading.
Cannot hear me clearly.
No, not at all.
Okay, we'll just check in with our clerks.
We're getting feedback that the audio is coming through for other people.
So it may be, apparently our audio is going through, Rosetta, so I do apologize. It may be on your end. Can you hear me now?
I cannot hear you, but I am reading basically what's happening.
Okay, as long as you can follow what's happening. Councillor Rutherford, can you take the chair?
No problem. I'll follow along.
I have some questions, and I don't know if anyone else does, but
Yep, I've
right.
got the chair.
great, thank you. I should have asked you before. But so Rosetta, if you can hear me, we will ask administration.
I can't hear you, but I can read.
Okay, you can see the transcript. Perfect. So I will be asking administration about your questions, but you may have seen that those speaking in favor have made agreements with parking, and so there should not be, from what I've heard from them, a lot of overflow. So, but we'll just double check that with administration on your behalf. Does that sound okay?
That sounds okay to me, yes.
Perfect. Thank you, and thank you for your patience. Councillor Rutherford, I'll take the chair back unless, we've got one more. Yeah, I'll take the chair back, Councillor Rutherford.
Yep,
Yeah,
return the
thank you.
chair.
And Councillor Tang, please go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, Rosetta, for coming out today to speak. So I take it that you are a commercial business in this area, correct?
Yes, correct. I am a commercial business in this area.
And do you operate 5 days a week, 7 days a week? Do you have, do you operate in the evening, the weekend?
Sorry, yes, we do operate 5 days of the week in the summer and 6 days of the week in the winter months. We are open, usually our business hours are from 9 to 5, but we also are here early in the morning, so it's usually, for us, it's about 8 till about 6.
And for your business, you do have parking on site, is that right?
We have some parking in the back, okay, but it's very limited. Security is a big issue in this area. When we opened our gates in the back to allow for customers to park back there, it posed a problem. Number one, for some reason, we don't know if it's, trucks coming through and things fall. We don't know. People have gotten flats, flat tires. The other thing is, in this area, we also tend to have some homeless people. What happens is, if we keep the gate open, they will tend to either, take goods and so on and so forth. So we try to keep that closed and opened when we possibly can. Winter months are more difficult.
Thank you. I think there is a lot you said.
What it is the gate is difficult to open, okay? We can facilitate approximately 3 vehicles back there, but they would have to move if we get, for instance, a shipment, and usually the trucks will have to back up. The vehicles cannot stay back there. Then in the front, what we've done is we've put some signage.
Okay, great.
For parking. Sorry, I cannot hear you. I'm just basically reading. Sorry about that.
So I have just a bit more to follow up on that. Appreciate your answer. There is a lot you said. I think I'll focus specifically on the parking issue. So you've been facing some of the challenges during your operating hours from the existing.
Yes.
We
already have.
Are you saying the parking issue comes from the existing mosque and the cultural clubs? Or other businesses around there?
The mosque is located a block south from here, okay? Their new location is right next door. So you can imagine, their facility is south, but the parking will pass our building, will pass Harold's Auto Body. It depends on the functions that they have, okay? So if it's a big function, it will take, the whole, our block plus where RJ's is and that whole block is packed, it's congested. So there is one mosque, and I'll just briefly say this. There is one mosque in front of us, and they have facilitated parking because that whole area is already their facility. It's an enclosed parkade, so it can facilitate people. Sorry, I'm timed out.
No, it's okay. I just, since you can't hear me, I had to make use other ways to indicate. Okay, so what I'm hearing also is that you are worried that this rezoning, despite the accommodation and agreement with other sites for parking, that you might still experience some of the challenges that you're facing. So that's what I'm hearing. Thank you for adding the context to your opposition. That's all.
All right, thank you, Councillor Tang.
Thank you.
Excellent questions. Councillor Stevenson for some more.
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly wanting to see if our guest has reached out to our parking management teams to look at some of the parking management tools like time restrictions or loading zones that could be added to the area.
Can I speak?
Yes, yeah, over to you.
Yes, we, years ago, we have signage outside, 2 signs, one from one side of the building to the other. In other words, the front. There's a signage that I think we might have to change at this point in time, is it states 1 hour parking for our site. Like I think it would probably facilitate 3 or 4 vehicles at the most. So we have reached out. I reach out to a lot of departments in the city, such as transportation, when it comes to snow removal. I reach out to parking. I've reached out to many things in order to make things easier for my customers, as well as keeping an orderly and upkept location for the whole area, basically.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate your outreach, and I think that continuing to work with parking management services to come up with some ways to manage parking in the area is a great way forward. So thank you for that work that you've already done. No further questions.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Rosetta. If you stay on the line, if you like, we're now going to move to questions of administration. So we'll see if anyone signs up on the board. Going once, going twice, but there's actually lots of opportunity. Okay, so Councillor Rutherford, can you take the chair, please?
Yep, I have the chair.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so to administration, obviously parking is always a little bit concern for businesses in the area. Have we, in preparation for this, sort of looked at traffic flows and parking situations?
In terms of parking being provided, as of 2020, the City of Edmonton did move to the open option parking model, so there are no on-site requirements to provide parking in this case. With regard to the additional transportation noise, I'll let Faisal.
Yes, just to add to the parking comment, Councillor, given that we have heard from the applicant that they have reached out and have some arrangements with adjacent sites where they can park. This is typical that we have seen in other areas, so that sounds promising. Yes, there is a competing demand on streets, so in order to serve their patrons, they have made some arrangements. In regards to traffic, we don't see a lot of increase because the size of the site, then the number of patrons are also going to be limited based on the fire code. So, for instance, whatever the square footage is of the area, there will be certain number of requirements as per the building code, how many people can attend a congregation at a moment. The third thing I would say is operations of the mosque, which typically is Friday afternoon, which does not coincide with the peak of the traffic, which is either in the morning or in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you. And so for the speaker opposed, it sounds like they've availed themselves of a lot of opportunities with the city to sort of manage parking in front of that location. Is there anything more that we can do? I heard there is a 1 hour parking option. Is there anything else that maybe just right in front of the store so it doesn't disrupt the flow of business?
Yes, in terms of looking into the area, we can definitely reach out to parking services to look at this area and see if there are opportunities to limit the parking duration, to increase that turnover so that more people are able to park. I think those are some of the tools we can definitely use.
Okay, so if the speaker opposed emails my office, for example, we can connect you, and then we can move some work forward on that front.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Those are all my questions.
Return the chair.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No? Looks good. Okay, so let me just take a look at our procedures here. So can I just check in with the speaker opposed?
Yeah, you can ask clarifying questions, absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Rutherford, can you take the chair again, please?
Yep.
Thank you very much. So, Rosetta, I hope you heard or at least read all of that. Does that sound like it might be, does that sound like a good way to go? Would you be willing to email my office so we can connect you with administration and see if we can work on further parking accommodations for your frontage?
Yes, I am willing to go that direction. That would be a great help, and it'll help everyone as well. Like if we can accommodate, patrons for the mosque as well as patrons for our business, that would be great. Yes, I would be willing to go in that direction to improve the parking in this area.
All right, perfect. Please email my office, and if you have any trouble tracking that down, please just contact the clerks, and they will point you in the right direction. All right, thank you very much, Rosetta.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and that concludes our questions. And I see nothing else, so I selected this item. So, Councillor Rutherford, you still have the chair, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So I think we can probably move to vote.
Are you moving closure?
I am looking at it right now, pulling it up. Yep. Okay. So I would like to move closure of items 3.2 and 3.3.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councillor Paquette, seconded by Councillor Knack. Any, actually, just please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the votes. And that is carried.
All right. I would like to move first reading of items 3.2 and 3.3.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councillor Paquette, seconded by Councillor Knack. Anyone to speak to this item? Okay, I will call the vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
Councilor Rutherford, I would like to move second reading of items 3.2 and 3.3.
Second.
Okay, perfect. Second reading is on the floor. And please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the votes. And that is carried.
And Councilor Rutherford, I would like to move consideration for items 3.2 and 3.3.
Second.
So we have consideration on the floor for 3.2 and 3.3. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the votes. That is carried.
And Councilor Rutherford, I would like to move bylaw 20586 and 20587.
Second.
The third and final reading, moved by Paquette and seconded by Knack. And please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the votes. And that is carried. And I will return the chair.
Thank you, Councilor Rutherford, for saving my bacon. All right, so we'll now move on to the second page, item 3.13 and 3.14.
They are being dealt with separately, Councillor Paquette.
Oh, my mistake. I just have them both circled to 3.13. And this was selected by Councillor Tang, but I believe that we do have speakers. And let's see if I can just grab that. So that would be in favor, Andrew Olson and Ryan Edick, who, if you have a presentation, that would be the time. And the clerks will help situate you. Oh yeah, that's right. We may have a presentation from Min. I didn't even ask, my apologies. But please, you can come on down as well. We have someone opposed. Oh, wait a minute. Before we actually get people to speak, I just wanted a little bit of housekeeping. Michael Old, are you online? Or actually here. Michael Old was supposed to be here, and I'm not sure if we've got him here. That's a good flag. Thank you. All right. Andrew and Ryan might be off the hook. Okay. But it was selected, so we will go to administration for a presentation. If the selector needs a presentation. Councillor Tang, do you need a presentation on item 3.13? Yes. Okay. I see a little tiny square over there with the thumbs up. Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Good morning. This application proposes to rezone a site in the Pleasant View neighborhood from RF1 single detached residential zone to the CNC or neighborhood convenience commercial zone. This would allow for neighborhood level commercial uses that are pedestrian oriented. A future building could be approximately 4 stories in size with optional residential uses above the ground floor. Next slide, please. The site is located on 61st Avenue on the north edge of the Pleasant View neighborhood. As shown on the slide, similar zoning exists west of the site to the corner of the block. The proposed rezoning would extend similar redevelopment opportunities to this site. The site is well connected to current and future bike and transit routes, including a mass transit bus route anticipated to operate on 109th Street as part of the future mass transit network. Next slide, please. The key differences in the existing zoning compared to the proposed are an increase in height and a shift from primary residential to primarily commercial uses. Uses in the neighborhood commercial zone are low impact in nature and designed to serve the day-to-day needs of residents, which means they do not typically create disruptions to surrounding properties and are considered compatible within a residential context. Next slide, please. Administration engaged the public through a mailed notice to surrounding property owners and the Pleasant View and Allendale Community Leagues, as well as a sign on the site, information on the city's website, and through one-on-one communications. We heard from 5 people with concerns. These are generally related to an increase in lane traffic, negative impacts that are perceived to be associated with commercial developments. These would include things such as garbage, crime, and more people experiencing houselessness. To address these concerns, we shared information on the types of low-impact uses to be expected within the CNC zone, and that due to the small-scale nature of the site is not anticipated to have a large impact on the road network. We also shared the broader goals of the city plan policy. Next slide, please. The city plan Big City Moves are future-focused. They tell us the choices we need to make to support more compact growth in our city. This application helps achieve the Big City Move community of communities, where the target is for Edmontonians to meet their daily needs within 15 minutes of home or work, which in non-planner speak is Edmontonians having quicker, more convenient access to a variety of uses in any given community. 61st Avenue is identified as a secondary corridor within the city plan. These are intended to be vibrant residential and commercial streets that serve as local destinations for surrounding communities. The typical building size is expected to be low-rise and mid-rise buildings. We recognize the transition of key nodes and corridors to perform as a mix of residential and commercial can seem intimidating. The uses and building size allowed by CNC are designed to be compatible with small-scale residential areas, and they align well with the city plan. Next slide, please. Administration supports this application. Rezoning to allow neighborhood commercial is a choice we can make that supports creating a community of communities. It aligns with the uses and built form for secondary corridors, has regulations to maintain compatibility, and is well connected to transit. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I will just check in with Councillor Tang. Do you have any questions for those who are proponents of this bylaw?
Don't they have to speak right now?
Sorry, I missed what you said.
Yeah, so I do have questions for the proponents.
Okay.
So let's hear from them first.
Perfect. I just didn't see your name on the list, so I wanted to double check. So please go ahead. And do you have a presentation that you'd like to give?
It's mostly just words. I did send a few slides in, but I don't think they're going to be, unless the questions are kind of pertinent, but it's mostly just showing a likely development footprint. So maybe it might be helpful to throw it up.
That might be helpful.
Great. Yeah, so my name is Ryan Eidick with Eins Consulting, and we work very closely with Mr. McClellan and the city administration on this file. We had originally come in and applied for CB1. After discussions, we were not completely aware of the previous work that had been done on the DC2 site to the west. And based on the number of uses and kind of the intensity of the site, we kind of reverted back to a CNC application very quickly. So we worked very closely with Mr. McClellan on that, and we ended up landing on CNC for a couple of reasons. First, like I mentioned, it's very low intensity. The intent of the application is to allow for a single user commercial development, so a very small scale development on site. Secondly, it's CNC eliminates a lot of those sensitive uses that what we heard were very pertinent in the previous discussions about the DC2 site to the west, so it eliminates those types of uses. And it's also still along a major arterial road. It's close to a couple other arterial roads. So, and there's approved and existing commercial to the west. So it does make some sense. And we felt that there was some city plan support as well, which we found that there was throughout the process. So we ended up landing on CNC. Outcomes of the application, I'll just be kind of quick. So the first slide here that you'll see, this is if the site was redeveloped as an RF1. So this is kind of a max build RF1. Important thing to note are the side setbacks and the floor plate. And then the next slide, if you will, thank you. This is the likely outcome, because now over the course of our time, we've come up with an actual use that we want to explore here, and that's a daycare. So it was a fairly late in the game use coming known, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So the intent is to provide a single-story daycare. So the site plan that you have in front of you, that's the likely outcome. So parking off the rear lane, small play area, and then because of the Main Street overlay, the building has to be pushed fairly close to the front. So this is the intent of the application. A couple more outcomes that I want to just briefly mention. The rear lane, if it may have to be reconstructed. We've heard through administration that the rear lane is in tough shape. It's not on the alley renewal list currently, and although neighborhood renewal is going on right now in Pleasant View, it doesn't include those alleys. But if the development and if the city administration deems it appropriate at the time of development permit application, that rear lane will have to be reconstructed at our cost, or at the cost of our client. Secondly, all access will have to be from the lane. I think some of the feedback that we heard throughout the process was that it was going to push or increase traffic on the front. Possibly, I suppose. However, all access is going to have to be from the lane, and I think there are plans with that service road in the future. Anyways, I can defer that to administration. Yeah, and it's generally a small increase in building footprint from what the RF1 would allow. So for these reasons, we feel that it's appropriate, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. And I believe you will have some questions. We'll start with Councillor Tang.
Great, thank you so much. I just want to check with clerk. Speaker in opposition is not present, correct?
That's correct, and we were notified they've withdrawn their notice.
Okay, sorry, I may have missed that. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that presentation, Ryan. Are you aware of other daycares in the area?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Tang. There's quite a few daycares to the east. So there's one in the commercial, the larger commercial development on like Calgary Trail. It's a weird triangular shape in between 61st and 63rd. There's one in there. There's a few to the north. They're all small scale, but there's really nothing in kind of this western part of Pleasant View.
Kind of in the residential area, sounds
Correct.
like.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose you're landing on that likely outcome is based on some of those observations and I guess like evaluation, right?
Yeah, correct. A user group approached our client actually to open one, so they must believe that there's a market.
Yeah, and this rezoning reminds me a lot of a previous CNC rezoning in Mill Woods, and I have to say I was actually quite impressed by a lot of the community outreach you also did after the fact. A lot of the visiting with neighbors immediate adjacent and in the surrounding area. I guess I'm just wondering if you had any lessons learned from that experience that is making you a bit more proactive in this case.
Lots of lessons learned. The projects overlapped quite a bit, so yeah, we learned a lot of lessons, and I mean, I appreciate the kind words, but a lot of that is still ongoing there, so we'll see what the outcome is in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to better understand any efforts kind of you're doing here. I understand I don't see kind of a response from the league, but wondering if you've had a chance to come talk to some of the neighbors and maybe clarify some of the understanding around this application.
Yeah, so we met with immediate adjacent neighbors on east and west side, so it was fairly limited in terms of that. We worked very closely with the file planner, and we always encourage them to send out our contact info to anybody that they receive concerns or anything from. I don't think, we never heard anything, so again, it's a little bit, I'm not exactly sure how to put it, but we tend to do more engagement when it merits it, and in this case, we felt that the engagement that the city did through notification, and then of course this public hearing, sufficed.
Yeah, no, that's understandable, certainly. I think just kind of watching your engagement process kind of on that other file also gives me a lot of confidence that you will continue to respond and answer questions and clarify things if it does arise. Those are all my comments and questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Tang. We'll just see if there's anyone else. Not hearing any. So thank you for your presentation, for answering questions. We'll now move to questions for administration if we have any. And I'll just check in with Councillor Tang. No? Okay. Councillor Rutherford, please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess just to administration, just looking at this application. And it's quite a big height difference, right, from 8.9 to 6. And I understand the intent of the applicant is for a single-story daycare. However, you know, I know that we have to look at this from the land use perspective around what is the highest possible build out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So one of the things that I read in the report is that there's a DC site to the west, but it's not developed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any development permits? Like, is it getting developed in the near foreseeable future? Because right now it is a single family home, correct?
It is, yep. There are no development permits on file.
Okay. And when it says the CNC plus mature streets overlay proposed, again, just wondering what, if this was approved today and we approve the zoning bylaw, or at least the change for the CNC zones to the mixed use zones, I'm guessing, is that correct? What is the nearest equivalent zone in the new proposed zoning bylaw? That's the question I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, you're correct. It would be MU or mixed use.
And what components of the mature streets overlay are integrated into that?
So
is there anything that changes this substantively?
Not substantively. The way the equivalencies would work is they would take on and the max height and max FAR of the current zone. So it would be capped where MU is the equivalent. So we have that. There's also something that is proposed to be introduced with the zoning bylaw, and it's called the commercial frontage modifier. That would also apply in this area, and that just requires that commercial frontage is on the ground floor.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rutherford. I don't see anyone else on the board. Oh, there we go. Councillor Tang, please go ahead.
I'm just ready to speak to it unless the ward councillor wants to close the public hearing.
Okay, sure. So you're closing public hearing then? Making that motion?
Sure. I'll do that.
Great.
Second.
And that is seconded by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
It's not coming up for me. I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Councillor Tang, over to you.
I will move the first reading of 3.13.
Second.
Second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
Oh, sorry. Can I?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's right. Please go ahead, Councillor Tang.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Oh, sorry.
Point of order. I'd like to speak too, but you're closing.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize.
Our apologies, Councillor Rutherford. We didn't see you on the screen. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to click in. Everybody's moving so fast this morning. I just wanted to say I really like this. The need for more commercial at the neighborhood level. I mean, obviously we have a daycare, a need for more daycares throughout our city. So I'm very excited about this prospect. That being said, I am always mindful in these kind of rezonings that, what is intended might not actually be what's built. And we always have to think about it from the lens of the zone. So I do think it is a bit odd if something larger was to get built kind of mid-block prior to that DC2 being developed. It would be more ideal for me if that DC2 was already developed. But it's not enough of a hesitation for me not to support it. Just wanted to flag that, I would say if I was to do a temperature check, I'm probably more lukewarm on this application than full endorsement and support. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Tang to close.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I think this, I think the administration presented a pretty sound case for this rezoning. In terms of the, again, recognizing the intended outcome is the single-story daycare, which I think is a really important use, particularly at the residential level. And even if it is something taller, I do see the provision in there around potential residents above. And so I think that kind of housing will also further, increase the diversity and just still very much aligns with some of the principles with city plan. And I'm comfortable with that. I know there's a lot of concerns around noise, around parking, not too different from what we typically hear. But I do see in this application, there's lots of provisions around parking. I'm hearing the rear lane access, it will be constructed as well by the applicant. And so I feel like there's a lot of provisions already in place to alleviate some of those concerns. And just in general, I think there's some good potential opportunities for conversations with neighbors, with the community and to, again, like in the previous rezoning, help bring people along with some of these kinds of intensification, however low or small scale, that is important to achieve the goals of the city plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Brief and well said. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Councillor Tang?
Yes, second reading of item 3.13.
Second.
Second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
And consideration for 3.13 Charter Bylaw 20582.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Knack. Moved by Councillor Tang. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
And the final reading of Charter Bylaw 20582.
Second.
And that is seconded by Councillor Knack. Moved by Councillor Tang. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried. Okay, so we will now move to item 3.14 Is there a administration presentation? Okay, let's go ahead with that. Shaking off the cobwebs here.
Good morning. This application proposes to rezone a site in the Bonnie Doon neighborhood from a DC2 site-specific development control provision to the RA8 or mid-rise apartment zone. The purpose of the proposed RA8 is to allow for a mid-rise residential building up to 6 stories with limited opportunities for commercial activities at ground level. Next slide, please. The site is located at the corner of 84th Avenue and 91st Street, directly across from University of Alberta's Campus St. John. Post-secondary campuses act as important employment centers and hubs of activity, making surrounding land, like this site, a good location for additional density as proposed. The site is also well connected to the city's mass and active transit travel networks, with convenient connections to bus service along 91st Street and White Avenue and bike routes within Mill Creek Ravine. Next slide, please. The key differences between the existing DC2 and proposed RA8 are an increase in height and floor area ratio. RA8 is the zoning bylaw's standard zone for a mid-rise building up to 6 stories. It contains appropriate setbacks to mitigate the effects of a larger building as it transitions to smaller scale buildings. The scale of the proposed building is also in context with the Campus St. John buildings across the street and a 5-story apartment kitty corner to the site. Next slide, please. The city engaged the public through a mailed notice, information on the city's website, site signage, and through one-to-one communications. We heard from 8 people, most of whom did not support this application. Concerns heard through these various engagement methods include increased traffic, the proposal not being in character with the rest of the neighborhood, and reduced privacy and access to sunlight. Administration did receive a formal letter of support from the French Quarter Business Improvement Area. Next slide, please. By allowing for increased density at a location that is situated among transit services, employment opportunities, and other basic services, this application helps achieve the Big City Move community of communities, where the target is to ensure Edmontonians can meet their daily needs within 15 minutes of home or work. The site also falls within the White Avenue primary corridor area where mid-rise buildings are expected. Next slide, please. In closing, administration supports this application. The rezoning helps achieve the goals of the city plan by allowing for additional density in a mid-rise built form at a location that ensures infill growth is occurring where residents can complete their daily needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have some speakers, and so they are both remote. We'll start with Allison Rosland. Please go ahead.
There should be a presentation that was sent to the clerk.
Yep, it's up.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So good morning, Mr. Chair and members of council. My name is Allison Roseland from Situate, and I'm speaking today about our client Hasco Development's application to rezone their property in Bonnie Doon from its current DC2 zone to the RA8 zone. Next slide. Situate submitted this application on April 6, 2023, at which time we created a web page to provide our contact information to post updates about the application, as well as answer commonly asked questions. On the web page, we included a survey asking for input on the design of the future building, landscaping for the site, and the types of commercial uses they might like to see in the building, if any, because the RA8 zone could allow for some small-scale commercial uses on the main floor. We received 2 survey responses. Next slide. In April, we also mailed an information letter to 180 nearby homes to let the neighbors know about the project, the webpage, and again, to provide our contact information. We also posted custom signage on the site to direct people to our webpage. We contacted the French Quarter Business Improvement Area, who expressed support for the proposed rezoning and the potential for more ground floor commercial uses. We also contacted the Community League. Concerns from residents that were compiled by the League and responses from our survey included building height and form, shadowing, parking, traffic, and that more commercial uses are not needed. I will address these in my presentation today. Next slide. The site is surrounded on 3 sides by 84th Avenue, 91st Street, and a lane to the south. The only abutting residential property is the existing single detached dwelling to the west. Land uses in the surrounding area is primarily commercial, institutional, and low-density residential, with some low-rise and mid-rise housing scattered throughout the area. Commercial amenities, Mill Creek Ravine, and Campus St. John are located nearby. The site also has good access to transit, with several bus stops nearby on White Avenue and 91st Street, and the Bonnie Doon LRT station is about 800 meters away. The site is located close to the Bonnie Doon District Node and is within a primary corridor, which is illustrated by the teal building footprints. Next slide. White Avenue is a designated primary corridor in City Plan. City Plan encourages development in primary corridors in the form of mid to high-rise buildings, which includes buildings ranging from 5 to 20 stories. This proposed rezoning will allow for a building at the small end of what City Plan calls for within this corridor. As a result, the proposed rezoning will provide a sensitive transition to the surrounding lower density areas and contribute to the gradual plan transition over time that City Plan envisions. Next slide. The site's current DC2 zoning that was created in 2017 is outdated and unfortunately requires the development of a project that no longer meets market demand and is not feasible to build. DC2 zones are utilized when a standard zone won't work. When the regulations of the RA8 zone were overhauled in 2019, it became easier to build under the RA8 in older neighborhoods. Another major change since the DC2 rezoning was the removal of the minimum parking requirements from the zoning bylaw. Rezoning from the DC2 to the RA8 zone will result in a building 1.5 to 3 stories taller with very similar setbacks. The front and rear setbacks are the same. The interior setback is larger, and the flanking side setback is slightly smaller. Similar to the DC2, the RA8 zone requires upper stories to be stepped back on the west side to provide a more sensitive transition to the lower density property next door. Parking is intended to be provided in an underground parkade, which would be accessed from the rear lane. That said, we expect that future residents would utilize the multimodal transportation options available in the area, including the LRT, bus network, and the bike routes. Our understanding is that commercial main floor vacancy in the area is low, and providing a variety of commercial uses within walking distance helps work towards City Plan's policy direction for 15-minute communities. Next slide. We have prepared a sun shadow study based on the largest building that could be built under the RA8 zone to illustrate how building form impacts shadowing. The study shows that for most of the year, the shadow impacts on properties to the west is limited to the early morning and primarily affects the abutting streets for most of the year, with some shadowing across the street during the winter months. The shadow also moves quite rapidly over the ground throughout the day, such that no yard would be in permanent or perpetual shadow. Next slide. And on my last slide, you can see the breakdown of the housing mix in the neighborhood. The majority of dwellings were single detached houses as of 2016. A mid-rise building would provide more housing choice and options for current and future residents. So to wrap up, I would respectfully like to ask for council's support of administration's recommendation today, which aligns with City Plan and will enable a multi-residential development that is close to amenities and transit and is within a primary corridor. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you. Adil, do you have a presentation as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, please go ahead.
Good morning, councillors. My name is Abdul Hassan. I'm one of the owners of Hassan Development Corporation and the site that is being considered for rezoning today. Thank you for taking the time to hear my presentation and to consider our application. Next slide, please. To start, I want to give you a bit of background on who I am. I was raised in Edmonton and currently live and work here with my family. My background is in engineering and construction management, and I have over 12 years of experience in the land development and construction industry. I'm currently the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for Hasco, which is our family-owned company that my father started in 2005. Over the years, we've completed many residential, commercial, and industrial projects across the Edmonton region. Our focus is on our clients. Our team is passionate about providing more housing options for Edmontonians and helping to revitalize communities where people can come together. For me, though, this is only one part of the community building and making the city better for Edmontonians. Outside of work, I'm also a community advocate through my work with organizations such as Reach Edmonton, the Alberta Anti-Racism Advisory Council, and the National Council of Canadian Muslims. On this slide, you can see some of the photos of some residential infill projects that we've built in Edmonton. In Bonnie Doon, we want to provide new multi-unit housing that is built well and looks great in the neighborhood. Next slide, please. We feel the community of Bonnie Doon is a perfect spot for our project. It's a great location in the community, and it's close to many of the community's amazing amenities. The site is across the street from Campus Saint-Jean and is also within walking distance of grade schools. The site has great access to commercial amenities, including White Avenue, the French Quarter, and Bonnie Doon Shopping Center. The site is about 800 meters from the Bonnie Doon LRT station on 83rd Street, which will provide residents with access to the LRT system. The site is also located close to parks and green spaces, including Mill Creek Ravine. Providing more housing options in the community will help support small businesses and schools in the French Quarter and surrounding neighborhood and contribute to the community's vibrancy. We're looking to attract a mix of students, residents who are looking to downsize, young professionals, and other Edmontonians that want to live in a well-connected central location. We are currently planning for the proposed building to be purpose-built rental housing. Next slide, please. We are also excited to be part of the next era of city rebuilding in Edmonton. The goals that are set out in City Plan are providing opportunities to build different housing types that will give Edmontonians options in great neighborhoods like Bonnie Doon. We want to be part of that process and provide housing that is designed and built well in Edmonton's neighborhood. Next slide, please. As I finish up my presentation, I'd like to end by saying that I'm happy to be here today to speak about this project. I'm hopeful with your support, we can build something great on this site in Bonnie Doon and provide new housing options for the community and help implement the city plan's goals. Thank you for your time today and listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 5 minutes and 2.5. That's impressive. So I think that we've had Councillor Salvador select this. I'll just see if she's got questions to begin with. Yep, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for those presentations. Maybe I'll just start with a few questions of Speaker Hassan. Thank you so much for being with us today. You talked a little bit about sort of the intention to be a mix of student housing, maybe folks who are looking to downsize, age in place in the neighborhood. And just for clarity, is there an intention to have any sort of commercial at grade, or is that still being contemplated, or would it be primarily residential?
The goal of the building is primarily residential, but at this point we're looking at all options. I think, given some of the feedback we've heard, I think commercial use on the main floor would be welcome in the community. So everything's being explored at this point.
Okay, fantastic. That's good to hear. And I anticipate, just based on some of the feedback that was included in the report from some of the residents, question just around parking. I know, of course, we have open option parking, and there's no requirement to have parking on site. Where are you folks at with that? Where are those conversations at? Is there an intention to have some parking, or given proximity to transit, are you doing minimal parking?
So the goal is to have an underground parkade to allow for residents that choose to own a vehicle to give them that option. But obviously, we're looking at other options such as trying to find car sharing services that will have designated spots within the building, and obviously a lot of access to easy access to bike lockers in the lobby and whatnot as well. So looking at providing options for everyone regardless of how they travel.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear, and it's in, as you mentioned, a really unique location, and so that intersection of planned bike routes, future LRT, and I'll ask this of administration, but I think a BRT line as well. So that's great. And then, maybe just to Speaker Rossland as well. You had a slide that had the breakdown of housing mix. Can Ben pull that back up? I want to take a peek at that again. Thank you. So looking in Bonnie Doon, majority single family, some duplex, fourplex. So I guess this would be filling that apartment 5+ story space. Is that correct?
Yes, Councillor. So right now there's about 10% of the dwellings are apartments 5 stories and up. So the intention here would be to build a 5 or 6 story building. Obviously that hasn't been confirmed yet at this point, but that is the intention. So it would help provide more mid-rise housing within the community.
Okay, so intention is, yeah, just sort of diversify that housing mix. Okay.
Exactly.
Great. That is super helpful. Thanks for including this in your presentation. I will leave it there, and I'll have, I'm sure, questions of our other speakers and administration. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Councillor Salvador. And I'll just give a moment to see if anyone is frantically trying to sign up to ask questions. No panic at this disco. Okay, so we will now move on to speakers in opposition, and we will begin with Carol Barbary. Please, you have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
Basically, I agree with what the first speaker said about the issue with the parking. This is my main problem. However, I did hear Allison Roseland and the last gentleman saying that there will be underground parking, but if there's not sufficient parking for all the residents, it will cause significant issue in the neighborhood. I live on 84th Ave, and with the students from your university, the staff from both the university and the St. Thomas Care Center, there is no parking during the daytime. So far on 84th Ave, there are 3 residents that had to resort to put handicap parking in front of their house, and I'm planning to apply because I'm taking care of my mother with Alzheimer and reduced mobility. So right off the bat, that's going to remove 4 parking spots. And I've inquired about having having permit to park there, and no application has been taken at this time, so that will be a problem, but that will not solve the problem of the builder, because such a project that he wants to build would not allow their resident to access to one of those parking permit, as far as my research, what I found in my research. So unless there is enough parking, that would be an issue. And as a resident, I try to park in the back alley, and we get breaking in, physically, the car would be smashed and things would be stolen from the car. So it's not really an option, especially that if I arrive at 4 o'clock, for example, there's still a lot of people park on the street. And just to show how bad the problem is, from that staff and student, is on 84 Ave, there's only resident on half of the street. The other half is it's the church. It's a church and a hospital, the care center. So we don't have enough parking at all. So that's I would be opposed if there's not enough parking spot. However, I know that the bylaw says that they are not forced to do it, so they're not obliged.
Okay, thank you very much, and well done. So, James Holichuk, yeah, you're up if you want to speak. Yeah, please come on down. And Speaker Barbary, you may get questions from councillors, so you might want to stick down by the mic. Yeah. Great. And again, you did really well. Public speaking is not easy. Okay. James Holichuk, you have 5 minutes and the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, I've returned to council chambers once again to voice my objection, this time to the public hearing for Charter Bylaw 20592. I was here on May the 8th, 2017 to voice my objection to this same developer's application to build a 4-story complex with commercial space on the ground floor along with 2 adjacent townhouses on this 82-foot wide lot. Councillor Knack was on council at the time, but I don't recall if he was present to hear my objections. They were dismissed and the developer was granted the rezoning application. The developer, having purchased the 2 properties in question, 9103 and 9107 84 Avenue, in late 2013 or early 2014, has been a disaster for the neighborhood. From that time on, the past 9 years of ownership, I've complained every winter about the unshoveled front city walk, and every summer about the unmowed lawns front and rear. For 6.5 years since he was granted permission by council to build on these 2 lots, the house next door at 9107 has been a habitat for homeless. Breaking into it, fires started in the 2 wooden shacks next door under 4 large spruce trees. An Edmonton fire rescue inspector posted a warning letter on the front door of 9107 dated May the 12th this year regarding securing the house entrances and windows. Another letter dated May the 19th, stating an inspection sometime between July 31 and August the 4th would be conducted to ensure the building will be secured. To date, nothing has been completed. The corner house at 9103 was condemned this past spring because of complaints to the City Health Department by the renter at the time. This can best be described as slum landlord antics. Almost 10 years have passed living next to this disgraceful mess, and now this same developer, who did nothing over the past 6.5 years, feels the need to build a 6-story structure totally out of sync with the mature single-family neighborhood. There's no need for more commercial space in the neighborhood. There's plenty, as is, within a 5 to 10 minute walk, and there's no room to park customer vehicles. With the U of A student residence across the avenue, there are restricted parking hours on 84th Avenue, so the students legally park on 91 Street. A 4-story U of A residence north across the avenue, and a 5-story assisted living residence kitty corner from the property hardly gives good reason to build this edifice. They are Alberta government buildings. There are 2 large spruce trees on our property along the east fence line and 2 on the other side of the fence. They give us privacy. Would balconies be built so residences can watch our every move outside? Windows allowing for the same intrusion of privacy? I have no issues with the building of a triplex, but this building is a monstrosity that needs to be denied. He has proven himself to be a terrible, neglectful neighbor, totally undeserving of winning this proposal.
Okay, thank you. And now we will move to speakers from council, and we've got Councillor Salvador.
Yes, thank you, and thank you so much to both of our speakers for being with us today and taking the time out of your days to share your perspectives and share your thoughts. Maybe I'll start with some questions just around parking, because I know you both raised questions around and concerns around parking.
Ma'am,
Yes?
is there a way that we can boost the volume up a bit?
I can also talk a lot closer.
That'll be fine.
How about that? Better?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, just reiterating my thanks for you being here today, and I'll start with some questions around parking,
Okay.
given that you both brought that up as a concern. So I guess at this point, I know there's parking restrictions on 84th.
Yes.
There's no parking restrictions on your street currently, are there? Just turn your mic on if you could.
There used to be, but a petition was made to remove the restriction before I moved there.
Okay, and so there's no restrictions in place, but you did mention there's a number of folks who have applied for the placards for their individual properties for disabled parking stalls, correct?
I'm sorry, can you speak louder? I appear to hear.
It sounds like there were a number of folks who have applied for placards for the disabled parking stalls. You mentioned that. Is that correct?
They applied to, I'm not sure exactly what happened prior to me living there, but I think there was either restriction or no parking at all on that stretch of between 90.
Sure. Okay, that's helpful. And I guess, have you reached out to the city's parking team to talk about having additional parking measures in place, like permitting for residents?
Well, I did, and there's no application right now that is accepted.
Okay.
But that will not solve the problem of the developer if we are granted to have resident parking like license, because they won't allow the resident of such a building, if I'm correct, if I understood correctly the website, it would not allow for such a building that is going to be developed for their resident to have a permit to park.
Okay, and I'll clarify that with city staff as well and ask some questions around the status of those types of applications and where we're at in our parking management strategy to have those types of conversations. Yeah, and I guess I would appreciate your reflections around what you heard from the applicant when they talked about their intentions to provide that underground parking. I guess it sounds like that's something you would like to see.
Yes, and also I'd like to add something on the city post, like big bulletin board that was erected in March 2021. There was only the email address, of a person from the city. I'm sorry, I lost my page. I did write an email right away to this individual, and never was I given a link to the website that Allison Roslin has mentioned to answer the survey, and I don't recall receiving any brochure or any information about the survey. So she said that every resident were notified, but I do not recall. And when I did write to, the first person I wrote to, I believe is Stuart Carlisle, and I also wrote to Mr. I'm sorry, I don't have his name.
That's okay.
And nothing was mentioned about the link, and so that's also something that I wish I would have been aware.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with city staff as well as the applicant when we come back to new information about that particular piece for you. And I do see someone else on the board. So maybe before I jump into some questions around the state of those adjacent properties, because I do want to touch on that, it sounds like there have been some issues around break-ins and just, I don't want to let that go undiscussed. So I'll loop back to that. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tang, please go ahead.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. And I'll leave those questions to Councillor Salvador, as I think there's lots of concerns kind of packed in. And I want to come back to this issue of parking. Carol, if I can just come back to you. Obviously I can understand it can be quite distressing when you're, providing care to a family member, you really need some of those on-street spots for ease. But given kind of the location of this potential building, and it's, only a couple blocks away from a highly busy transit line, what do you think do you think everybody living there might have the need for parking? Do you think potentially that some of the residents might not have any cars? And this is to Carol. I guess I'm just wondering.
Sorry, I was waiting to read because I'm hard to hear, and I could not hear it indirect.
No problem.
Well, during the day, when you're during the summertime, it's even difficult to find parking. Even when the university is closed, or it's not. Sometimes we have to park across the street. But regardless, it is an issue for everybody living there.
Right. So
there are other small apartment buildings on the street as well.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. I understand that. I think there's a lot of existing stress about parking, and hearing about a potential higher density build probably does not alleviate the concern, even if potentially, there's consideration for transit use, for other modes of transportation. I mean, I can understand your worry there, and it sounds like we need some different tools. And Councillor Salvador's questions about parking management is kind of the line of thinking that I've been drawn to. Anyways, appreciate your answer.
I have another comment to do about about transportation. There
Please.
used to be a stop. There used to be a line that would bring resident directly downtown, and it was removed. So now, for example, the reason why I moved there was because my daughter, two of my daughter were going to school downtown. Now that this line has been removed, it's adding half an hour more to the transportation there. It's not only affecting our family, it's affecting the residents, especially there's several little elderly residents that are there. So if it's already causing a problem to the people that live there, it will cause a problem for the resident of that new building. Like the LR, even if when the LRT works, it's still going to add an additional time to go downtown. And so that is also another problem that is added to the idealization of having this building built there. You're talking about public transportation, but that's no longer a good system, and it's problematic. So
Yeah.
I don't agree with your argument of public transport because it's not. It has deteriorated since the change of the routes.
Yeah, thank you for flagging that. I think that adds a bit more context to this conversation for sure. Appreciate both of you for spending the time this morning with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. And we had a little bit of cross chatter about memory, which perhaps Councillor Knack will address.
Oh, we'll see. Thanks, Councillor Paquette. Thanks for being here, it's Holochek, right?
Mr. Holochek. Yes.
Holochek. Yes. Yeah, and I do remember the chat. Yeah, in May 2017, you had raised one of the concerns, and if I remember correctly, when this one was first talked about, because you touched on privacy and sort of built form, there are a number of trees that are not on your lot, right? They are on their lot, but like essentially they're almost half and half, right?
That's right. There are two probably 40-year-old spruce trees. Two are on our side of the fence that we built, and two are on the other side that were planted 40 years ago by the kids who were there.
Yeah. The 2017 conversation, there was actually, because it was direct control, I think had some, and I'll have to check with administration on it, but I think there was direction around preserving the trees on their lot to help ensure, because they're pretty giant trees, and if they're there, whether it's 4, 6, or frankly 20 stories, I mean, not that we're suggesting 20 stories, but you've got those giant trees that would help ensure any privacy.
That's correct.
Yeah. But with this change, and have you spoken with the applicant since they brought in this revised application about the trees at all?
He's impossible to speak with.
Okay. All right.
Okay. You know, I've in the beginning, after he purchased those properties, I would complain about the 18-inch weeds in the front, unshoveled walks, got nowhere. So what I end up doing is contacting 311, and it eventually gets done. It takes forever, but it eventually gets done.
Okay. Okay, so there hasn't been any updated conversation on that. So when I think it comes to new information, that's because I think one of the, if this were to be approved, that's that guarantee of the trees isn't there anymore. At least the two that are on their property, because you've still got the two on yours. Correct? Yeah, you've got
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's everything for now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Knack. Do you mind moving second round?
I'll move the second round.
Perfect. I'll second that.
Second? Oh.
Oh, actually, was that Councillor Tank has seconded it? Happy to have you
Sure.
second it. All right. So please vote.
I'm a yes, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. Councillor Salvador.
Yes, thank you. So I'll just pick up on some of the questions around the state of the current properties, and I recognize that does not factor into our land use decision today, but I just want to close that loop and just provide a little bit of assurances around that. So as of today, is the property unsecured and vacant? Like, is it boarded up? Do you know, what's the status of it?
The property hasn't been touched since probably sometime in the last year when they put up some kind of a hoarding in front of the front door, but all the windows are still uncovered. I don't know why, and the order came. I got a copy of the orders that were placed on the front door. I went to Saba Homes, who's I guess a subsidiary of Hasco Developments, and nothing has been done with that property. Absolutely nothing. Did have a crew come out the other day and mow the front lawns on front and rear lawns on both of those houses. Maybe that was for today's meeting. I have no idea. But he's just been derelict in proper neighborhood duty. If this was something that was next door to your house, you'd be as inflamed as I am.
And yeah, I'm hearing there's definitely some challenges around the enforcement piece and that compliance piece with just the state of the property itself. Just from a safety perspective, are folks accessing the site? Like, is it being broken into or is it secured?
Absolutely, it's been I've contacted their office probably in the last couple of years, and saying there's people living in there.
Okay.
Get them out of there and nail the door shut.
Okay, well, maybe we can have an offline conversation about that, because again, not necessarily a part of the land use conversation, but that's very concerning to me that I'm hearing that. So I know that we're trying to take a stronger approach to those types of properties where there are frequent break-ins, because that's not safe for anyone. So please, after today, regardless of the decision, I'd be happy to follow up with you on that. This might even be our last item, so we can even chat outside about how we can help you with that piece.
All right.
Okay, excellent. So I will leave it there for now, but I am going to have some further questions when we come back around to new information.
Okay, well, I don't see any further questions for our speakers. Well done. So we will now move to questions for administration, and perhaps some of your concerns will be addressed there. And Councillor Salvador.
Thank you. Great, so why don't we just start with some of the parking questions and concerns that we heard. So I guess regardless of the on-site parking that is provided, can we talk a little bit about our approach as it relates to on-street parking, some of the work we're doing there around our parking management strategy, and it sounds like there have been some conversations or asks around parking permitting, but are we in a bit of a transitional period right now where we're not actually moving forward with those applications? What does that look like?
Sure, I can just provide a quick update on where we are on curbside management strategy work. So the city did public engagement this year between April and May. This is in regards to residential parking program. There is a report coming to council in the first quarter of 2024 in that regard. Currently, we have 19 neighborhoods that are under this program. That program is not being expanded. At the moment, no new applications are being received. However, any special consideration in terms of barrier-free parking, that permitting is still available should that be needed.
Okay, so the barrier-free parking is still available as it has been. Is there an intention to look beyond the 19 current neighborhoods that have the program, or is that to be determined?
It is to be determined. But one of the things that one of the speakers brought up was in terms of how the program runs today. We clearly have identified some inequities in terms of, for instance, multifamily housing are not allowed to use that permitting. So I think short answer, to be determined. We are currently going through the feedback we have received, and definitely more to come next year. Okay,
and sorry, you said that was Q1 2024?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's something that is sort of a live conversation. We can continue having it. Okay, I'll be following up on that probably offline, but I appreciate you providing some context there. And then maybe just to verify with legal, some of the concerns that were raised around just the state of the property, the compliance enforcement, the state of the buildings that are currently on site, that's not able to factor into our decision, correct?
Councillor, you're correct. Their city has options for those situations, but I would invite you, of course, to keep that out of the public hearing process.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, and then just in terms of the actual scale of the building and some of the mitigations that are in place, the actual side setbacks are larger, correct? So there's, compared to the current DC that's in place. So there is slightly more space in between them. Is that correct?
The interior side setback for an RE8 zone, when it's above 14.5 meters, is 6 meters. So they can take that straight from the ground, or it can be 3 meters to the start of the building, and then another 3 at 14.5. So
Okay.
effectively, yes, you get more.
Okay, so not only is it set back, it is stepped back
Yeah,
as well.
that's correct.
Okay, so if there were to be any sort of balconies on that face of the building, how would that work?
So at the development permit stage, the development planner has discretion to ask for the location of windows and amenity areas and to try and minimize that overlook.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I think that covers a lot of the parking questions. Recognize we can't talk about the enforcement compliance piece. In terms of additional, I guess, opportunities for engagement, and I'll give the applicant a heads up, I'm going to ask about this, but is there typically additional conversations that are had even after the rezoning happens? Not that they're required, but, or are they? From the developer to the, or applicant to community?
They're not required, no.
Okay, so we'll see if that's the intention, though, of the developer. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Salvador. We'll move to Councillor Tang.
Great. I probably should have jumped on earlier as a question to applicant, but I'm curious, given the location across from the Campus Saint-Jean, was there any discussion of intent for, end user being students, for example, or I'm just curious about that aspect of the conversation.
I think the applicant in their presentation did mention that the intended, part of the intended market was students, yeah.
Yeah, and I recognize ETS, transit service level, is not necessarily part of this conversation. It needs to be addressed separately. But I am noting in the report that, given that this is is close to, or the site is close to the mass transit network, and and there will be even more significant bus-based services in the future. But I mean, it's part of the plan, but we just don't know exactly what that would be at this moment, correct?
So as part of the plan, 82 Avenue is identified to be a BRT route under 1.25 million scenario. This area is decently served by transit and different levels of service, whether it is high frequency or school service and others, and even community. So currently the site is well served, that's whether through 82 Avenue or 91 Street routes.
Mm-hmm. And would you say additional services may be considered maybe post LRT opening, or kind of at a later stage as we get? I mean, we're pretty on track to meet that 1.25 million milestone, aren't we?
Routes may be modified with the opening of LRT. Yes, I won't call it additional. Rather, I think optimization of the routing.
Mm-hmm. So potentially filling some of the gaps that was mentioned by the resident, would you say?
Yes, if there are any identified.
Right, okay. Okay, I think those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councillor Tang. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, very similar line of questioning, just, heard the comment about ETS service. My understanding too is that, additional population in the area could potentially support additional routes in the future. That's a fair possibility?
As part of our transit guidelines, yes, population is an important consideration. In mature context, there are a number of things that are at play. How we are connecting with the broader network, destinations that are close by. LRT in this case is a major driver. So I think keeping all that in mind, yes, population is also part of the thinking.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, no further questions on that. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And that will do it for questions for administration. Any other follow-up from Councillor Salvador? I'm seeing a yes. Please go ahead.
Great. So yeah, just to the proponent, wanted to follow up around your intentions for future engagement and conversation with community, recognizing this is, possibly step one is just having the rezoning conversation, but ironing out some of those additional details and talking about what that structure will actually look like, feel like. Are you planning to speak with community further?
Yeah, we've tried to maintain dialogue with community, the community leagues and the surrounding neighborhood as well. And obviously, as we get farther along through the project, we want to continue that to see how the needs of the community change and how we can help meet those needs. And as the project progresses forward.
Okay, that's good to hear. And I wanted to follow up, maybe Councillor Knack will follow up on his own. I was also interested in the questions you raised around the mature trees that are on site and what your thoughts are around just the importance of those and whether or not they're going to be retained, recognizing, no decisions have been made, I'm sure, but thoughts there?
The goal is still the same. Our intention is to preserve the trees that are not within the building pocket or whose root systems will not be, damaged or disturbed during construction. So the goal is to still keep the trees that are, because those trees are obviously a valuable commodity for the property. So the goal is to preserve whatever trees we can.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, we heard about I think it was 2 in particular that are sort of right on that fence line that sounds like provide a lot of beautiful shade and coverage for the neighboring property. So really pleased to hear that your intention is to retain those. And then maybe just another follow-up on conversations to date. It sounds like one of our speakers raised that they had some issues getting the link for the engagement page that was up. Can you just fill me in on how you communicated that information to surrounding neighbors?
Yes,
I can't comment. Oh, go ahead, Alison. You go ahead.
I can handle that question. Yeah, thanks, Councillor. So yeah, just to sort of provide a little bit more detail. So we sent a letter to 180 neighboring properties within 120 meters of the site. So those notices go to the street addresses, not the address of like the registered property owner. And so we try to align that distance with a similar distance that city administration does when they do their notification. So that letter provides our contact information, a little bit about the project and the link to the project website. And then further to that, we also posted a custom sign on the site as well that provides our contact information and then the link to the webpage, just because we know that sometimes, things get lost in the mail or they don't open it or whatever the reason might be, we try to provide that information on the actual site as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that, and that'll be it for me.
Right, thank you, Councillor Salvador. Councillor Knack.
Thanks, Councillor Paquette. Appreciate Councillor Salvador just asked the question about trees. I want to maybe ask it a little more bluntly and within legal constraints, recognizing I'm not allowed to take into account the state of the property, but I will offer this question, being the state of the property and what we've heard from the concerns from the neighboring property owners. And I mean, gosh, Google Maps alone, I think, looking at it, it's pretty clear that it's not in a great condition. I think there's a concern about actual commitment to delivering on what I just heard around maintenance of trees. So I guess I want to ask a little more bluntly,
are you going to keep those 2 trees on the side of the property as part of this development? You would have a larger setback than what was previously permitted in the DC2, but we actually lose the ability to retain retain those trees because that's removed from the DC2. So are you willing to make that commitment here with the neighboring property owner in the room that it can hear your answer?
So the goal once again is to keep those trees if there's no damage to the root system, and obviously those trees are very old and add great value to both sites, not only to the neighboring property but our property as well. So the goal would be to do the best that we can in terms of making sure that those trees are protected during the course of construction, and yeah, that is our intention, and that will be our intention going forward as well.
Are you willing to put that, I know we can't ask for that in a standard zone in writing. Are you willing to make that commitment in writing to the neighbors?
Yeah, we could put something together around the fact that obviously if something happens to those trees, and those trees would I think that's what we had previously committed to as well, saying that if something happened to those trees during construction, because we obviously
appreciate that. Yeah, I think
we don't know what the root system underneath looks like. When you're digging a parkade, what happens to those roots?
Yeah, essentially, and you're right. I think you're right. The previous direct control did make reference if by chance that tree couldn't be preserved, there would have to be a fairly similar style of tree put in its place, because construction does have that. So what I'm hearing is that you are willing to make that same commitment in writing that you would have had in the previous direct control zone, recognizing we can't ask that as council, but I've heard you commit that. Is that correct?
And if I could provide some comments on what's been said about the property as well, given the area and the neighborhood, we've had some challenges with folks breaking into the building. Whenever we received a complaint from I think there's been challenges with our office in terms of dealing with one neighbor. In terms of, I think there's been a breakdown in communication just based off some of the back and forth. But I can say that whenever anything has come to our attention in terms of unsafe housing or people that are breaking in, over the summer, once again, we received a notice that there was an issue with a shed. Shed was secured. The house has been boarded up. The windows have all been secured. So everything that's been asked of has been completed. When it comes to the grass on the vacant site, it gets cut every 3 weeks. We've tried to do our best given the circumstances that we've had. Obviously, our goal is to redevelop the site so that these houses won't be an issue going forward, and that's why we're here rezoning this, looking at getting the site rezoned today.
Do you still have? I know as of July there was a half of a development sign blocking the front door. Is that still there?
So that's been used to secure the door, the front gate.
Yeah.
And then the back door is also secured, and then the windows have been. We ensured that the windows were all secured from the inside.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we can't talk about the quality of securing as part of the public hearing process, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, I thought we were getting the okay from law, but maybe not. I'm joking. Okay. Okay, very good. So, Councillor Tang, please go ahead.
Great, thank you so much. I guess I'll start with the applicants. So you have mentioned students, what were some of the other user groups that you're contemplating for this housing form?
I think we're looking at folks that are looking at staying in the neighborhood but want to downsize and live in something that, a building that is maintenance free and just want to live within the neighborhood. But obviously folks that also want to move into the area that want to, utilize the amenities of the area and the great location. So, those are early on, those are kind of the folks that we have in mind right now.
Yeah, and I imagine that, that transit was a part of the consideration for this application. Any thoughts about kind of the challenges, that was mentioned earlier for the existing residents?
Sorry, I didn't catch the end of that there. My connection broke up.
Just, I assume transit was, pretty key consideration of this application, but recognizing existing, there are some existing challenges, there may be future services added. I guess I'm just wondering if you had any response or thoughts to what was shared earlier.
No, for sure. Parking is always something that you.
Public transit.
Yeah, and a public the location of the building, especially with Valley Line hopefully opening up soon. I think given the proximity to LRT, to existing ETS routes as well, like we're looking at building a building that is tied into that and gives folks an opportunity to take public transit to access wherever they need to go.
Yeah, and you may not have said it, but you are accommodating parking with underground parking. You are accommodating ride share programs and stuff like that. But essentially, you're potentially the tenants might not have any vehicles. Would you say?
Correct, and that's why the plan is to in the lobby to make sure we have bike lockers. We've got an area to wash bikes, stuff like that we're looking at exploring. Also looking at car sharing services that'll have designated parking stalls. Looking at trying to give everyone an option and an opportunity to equitably participate.
And then just want to come back to Carol. I can appreciate what you said about the challenge with some of the bus service level right now. Based on what administration said about future future improvement in the service with the buses, does that alleviate some of the concerns you have right now based on what you said earlier?
Well, I'm not sure if it was, but I just would like to go back. I'm not sure if it's going to solve the problem, but I'd like to go back to the resident who did went around the neighborhood and have the parking restriction removed. It was actually a tenant in one of the building that's going to be tear down and be replaced by this this complex, so that it kind of that, and we can go on speculation that people might not have a car. And also, it's not a good selling point when there's no parking space. I'm not sure if they're going to be condo or apartment building. If they are condo or eventually become condo, that's not even good for the builder. It's going to, when there's no parking, it's devaluating the.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I don't think we know the final form, as this is just the rezoning stage.
But my point, when there's this speculation that the resident might not have a car, I totally disagree. And as I've said, it was, the person who removed the parking restriction was living exactly on the spot where it's going to be built. So this is, and the parking, and even the LRT, to take the bus to go to the LRT, it's complicated. To walk there, it's also complicated because it's several blocks away, and there's the mall in the middle that people have to surround. And that's not in the time to go, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, thank you. Lots of things to consider. But anyways, appreciate those concerns, and I think a lot of those concerns, I'm sure your ward councillor is listening to this, and it won't be addressed in this land use decision, but is some of the transit conversations that we're talking about across the city. But anyways, thank you for answering that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Tang. I don't see anyone else on the board. So that will conclude the public hearing aspect of this bylaw. And Councillor Salvador has moved closure.
Second.
Second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that has carried.
I'll move first reading of Charter Bylaw 20592.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Salvador, second by Councillor Knack. Councillor Knack's on the board. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Councillor Paquette. Yeah, this is tough only because, and that's why I look at Mr. Johnson when I say this, I know I can't take into account some of the concerns that we had about the state of the property. Just from, and it's a frustrating legal process, but the way, yes. Our public hearing process is governed very strictly in that we are not allowed to consider who the applicant is. Our responsibility as councillors is to consider the actual land use. And I need to make that distinction because I hear you clearly about the state of the property. You know, I not only pulled it up on Google Maps, I remember riding by during the summer as well, and I saw that. I mean, seeing how it's, I'm going to use air quotes when I say boarded up. I mean, it's boarded up with half of a development permit sign. Not that I think there's a classy way to board up a property, but that's not it. And so I get your frustration with the quality of the property being maintained. I'm not allowed to consider that as part of the land use, but I am glad that I've heard a few things today. And of course, I know your councillor your councillor has been incredibly active in helping to change the rules around how we govern and hold accountable derelict properties. So you are in excellent hands with your councillor who has really led the charge in the last 2 years of making sure that we're holding folks to a higher standard. So since I can't consider that, but I look at you to share that that's still important and it's still critical to be worked on, and that'll be worked on at a separate point. Because when I look at the actual land use, I am comfortable with the land use proposal. It is a location that I do think is reasonable to have a building of this size. Kitty corner from this, I know we have a building of a very similar size. I think that as part of our overall city goals, we have been working on trying to provide more development opportunities like this, particularly around hubs, and you've got obviously a pretty major hub around you. And so since I can only look at this as just what is before us, I think that the ask that is being proposed is more than what it was before. I appreciate that. The average would have been about a 4-story building now, and now we're looking at about a 6-story building. I'm comfortable with, based on where it's located, even the site where it is on that corner, from a sun shadow impact, things like that, we're really not going to see the impact as if it was on the other side of the alley or further to the west. So I'm comfortable in that aspect. And so, these are always hard when you have this sort of mix because, and there are a handful of times where you'll have applications where there's frustration from the neighbors because of what's been happening over the years and a lack of maintenance. And so oftentimes if you hear me then also say I'm supporting it, it makes it, you might feel like we're not hearing you, but I just want to make sure you know that you are very much heard. There's just 2 different ways to deal with the challenge, and the land use conversation is not the way to deal with this challenge. So I'm comfortable with the land use. And noting that, again, you have a fantastic councillor who's going to work on helping to make sure they're holding to a high standard, because even if this is approved, it could still sit undeveloped for another year or 2 or 3. And what I would hate for you to have to deal with is a number of years more of what you've been dealing with for the last little while. So recognizing that is not my consideration, but obviously I hope our applicants are listening carefully about the, I think, trust with the neighboring residents and the need to really make sure there's a concerted effort to actually working with the community. I've heard a willingness to put a written commitment, and I expect that would be followed through on. And then I hope going forward that we don't see things in the same state, because that's not a great way to help build up trust and help advance some of these overall goals. So I'll support this application just with those additional thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Knack. In the interest of time management, I will note we have 11 minutes and 3 speakers, so I personally will be brief. If you don't have a great neighbor, it's hard to believe that you're going to have a great builder. And I get that.
I'm sorry, sir, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Yeah. If you don't have a great neighbor, it's hard to believe that you're going to have a great builder, and I get that. People build relationships. They also build reputations. And I believe that every builder wants to have a good reputation. And if that's not happening, one would hope that that changes. Now, Councillor Knack mentioned, this verbal commitment toward preserving trees, and the caveat was that if the trees get damaged or there's something wrong with them, then maybe that won't be a possibility. But what is possible is replanting more mature trees in the area. So there are always ways that a builder can preserve their reputation in our city. And we will see what emerges from this. Again, I can't vote on those considerations. I have to vote on the actual laws around zoning. So that becomes a bit of a challenge. The other concern about parking, again, if you want to sell units, you have to be able to entice people that your units are actually good for them to live in. And so hopefully that's another thing that any builder takes into consideration. And it's definitely something that has been a concern for a lot of residents across Edmonton for the entire history since we've got vehicles in our city. So it's noted and heard. So with that in mind, there are certainly community challenges, but as far as the letter of the law for the bylaw, I have no reason not to vote for this. But again, with those caveats that council is watching, the neighborhood is watching, and we will see what emerges. And I'm certain that the builder wants to have a great reputation. So, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. And I forgot to pass you the chair in the first place, but I'll take the chair back. Councillor Tang. Councillor Tang.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just be quick. There's lots of concerns shared about this particular application. When we tease it out, some of them are relevant to the public hearing, and some need to be addressed offline. And some are already kind of part of our future planning. And, I certainly know your ward councillor will be, taking those piece by piece and addressing them. For me, I think through the public hearing this past couple of years, we've seen lots of these RA7, RA8 application come through. Often in mature neighborhoods, that's, I think, very much aligned with the plan, with our mass transit plan, et cetera. I know some of those concerns are not, our transit isn't perfect, but given kind of what we know and what's been presented, I do think based on those land use considerations, I think they're very much aligned. And if we can't, and I think I actually do think, given all that's been considered, this site is fairly a good candidate for all those considerations. But I hear the challenges, and I'm sure there'll be ongoing conversations to address those piece by piece. So anyways, overall, I do support it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tang. Councillor Salvador.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you again to our speakers for being with us today. And thank you to my colleagues who spoke before me quite eloquently about this rezoning and their support for it. So I will begin by talking about this application from a purely land use perspective, because that is what we have to do at these public hearings. Now, when I look at its location in relation to White Avenue, it is within a primary corridor, which is where we'd expect to see this scale and intensity of development. Looking at the city plan, it is in close proximity to a future mass transit route. In particular, we heard about BRT, which council has in our previous budget cycle, current budget cycle, we have funded design work for, so that is underway. Looking at its proximity to the French Quarter and the neighborhood hub of commercial that is starting to be built up in that area, that's the makings of a walkable, amenity-rich 15-minute community. And an important part of a 15-minute community is not only the amenities and the commercial retail aspect, but it's also the people and being able to have diverse housing options that will meet people where they're at. We saw that the current mix of housing in Bonnie Doon is definitely still geared towards single family, some duplexes as well, but being able to add in some purpose-built rental, some multi-unit housing options is going to be quite, I would say, exciting. You know, there's a lot of younger families who are looking to move into Bonnie Doon who might not be able to afford a single family house, but that could be their entry point into the neighborhood. I also know there's a lot of older seniors who have lived there for 30, 40 years and they love it because it's a great neighborhood. But they're also looking for opportunities to be able to downsize and age in the neighborhood they love. And I think this could offer a really good outlet and opportunity for that. Now, those are sort of the pure land use considerations, but I also want to touch on what we heard from the applicant today, and this has been mentioned by colleagues, but the commitment around retaining and preserving mature trees on site. I think that is incredibly important, and I'm pleased that we had that conversation and had that commitment out today, and that there's a willingness to put that in writing. Underground parking. There were also questions around the intention to provide parking on site. And even though we have open option parking where it's up to that individual landowner to decide how much or how little parking to provide, they're still operating in a market. And I think there's recognition that there's still going to be demand for parking for those future residents. Maybe not as much because of its proximity to the mass transit line, to a future bike route, but parking will still be needed. So pleased to hear that. And then just in terms of the on-street or curbside parking impacts, we know that that is an ongoing conversation as we look to implement our curbside management strategy. So there will be future conversations and opportunities to implement additional tools if we're seeing additional parking pressure in that particular area. Yeah, and then I'll just touch on really briefly the state of the property. I've committed to having that offline conversation with you as well. Speaking to our speakers who are here today, I've already started actioning it through my office just to see where that property is at. I know we are taking a much stronger approach to unsecured properties, especially if there's fire risk and if there's recurring break-ins. So committing to following up there. And yeah, I'll stop there. But I'll just say, I think there's huge potential here. When I look at this hub in Bonnie Doon, I see a microcosm of what we want to achieve really citywide with the communities of communities and 15-minute neighborhoods. So thank you so much for everyone's words today. Thank you to our speakers and to administration for their answers.
Thank you very much. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
I'll move second reading of Charter Bylaw 20592.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Salvador, second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
I'll move consideration of third reading for Charter Bylaw 20592.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Salvador, second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried.
I'll move third and final reading of Charter Bylaw 20592.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Salvador, second by Councillor Knack. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that is carried. So that brings us to conclusion of public hearing, except for asking for notice of motion or motions without customary notice. I was not made aware of any.
Technically, I don't have to give notice of motion, but I'll do it now because we're done early. So
Okay,
if that's
go ahead.
okay, I will. I'll just do it now instead of waiting to council tomorrow. Sorry here. Oh, except now I don't have it.
Time's
there
up.
it is. Nope, found it. I still have time before the lunch break. At the next, not tomorrow council meeting, but the following council meeting after that, I will make the following motion. That a financial loss during major construction policies project be created using the draft policy report from March 23rd, 2022, and incorporating the following features. Number one, financial assistance be provided directly to business owners, not landlords. Number two, a cap on forgiveness, example 50% of property taxes for the years of construction. Number three, forgiveness to be repaid in years subsequent to construction completion should revenue increase to a level, example 15%, higher than pre-construction values. Number four, forgiveness to be based off business revenue, not to net income. Number five, income from the specific business must be at least 50% of gross revenue of this and all related businesses.